President Obama honored Joe Biden and, more importantly, surprised him
That
out
was
of
cool.
nowhere.
How do you
with the
pull off a
Medal of
surprise
Freedom.
in Washington D.C.? That's what I want to know, because that was a legitimate surprise.
Oh yeah, I mean that reaction, Joe Biden's like, oh my, that's gonna be
I don't
memed for
know
days. That's
if-
gonna be a GIF on the internet.
Can we pull that up? Just
Yeah.
that moment, because that was rich. I loved it. He looks like he was completely shocked. He was
Yeah,
stunned.
he was already crying because President Obama was saying such nice things. I'm gonna go ahead and play it one more time.
I kind of came into this a little
For the
later.
final
as a
time as
meeting.
president,
Here we go.
I am pleased to award our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Classic.
That little part right there, just his reaction, it's just gonna be the thing.
Reaches for the hanky, tears up. I mean, the emotion of this bestowing the highest non-military award.
Right, this highest civilian honor.
This is really an amazing moment. And you know what? What I loved about what we just saw there, because I kind of got sucked into it and glued to it after I heard you over here
I was
talking.
like freaking out. I was
What
like, did that
song
just
are you
happen?
talking about? It was so from the heart. You know, that's the real beauty of Joe Biden. And whatever your politics are, Joe Biden he's a real guy, and he speaks from the heart.
Right.
That was a really touching moment, and the stories he told, giving us a little bit of insight. I was just talking to somebody in the newsroom about the story he told about when his son was ill and had to leave his job, and you know, he's sick. He needs to be with his family,
Right.
and how he was going to sell his house. And the president said, "No, don't do that. I know how much that house means to you. I'll float you some money.
Right.
I'll help you out." So there's a real friendship here, and look at him tearing up there.
It's such a bromance. And, you know, President Obama did highlight the way Joe Biden has really worked for the middle class and fought for his people. And we noticed that on, you know, during the 2016 election, whenever he was on the campaign trail campaigning on behalf of Hillary Clinton, they really kept him in, you know, those key states of Pennsylvania, Ohio. They thought that maybe he'd be able to reach out to a group that Hillary Clinton hadn't been able to connect with.
You know, I've said this all along, and you probably heard me when we were just having discussions in the newsroom.
Right.
I always felt that had Joe Biden won, it would have been a different outcome possibly. I think Hillary
The
Clinton...
Democratic nomination,
Yes.
right.
I think had he decided to run, you know, he decided he didn't want to run. It wasn't the right time for him. I think had he run, because of that, he's a regular guy. He's been there before, and he speaks very plainly. Like, you know, I think that's
authentically.
one of the things that people appreciate about Donald Trump. Not everybody,
Absolutely.
but a lot of people appreciate that he's not. His words have not been filtered through some sort of a focus group.
They're both conversational. That's the
Yes.
thing. When I said that early on during the Trump rallies in 2015. When you go to a Trump rally, he's just talking to you.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like you're hanging out with him, and there's not the really big formality of fancy words. It just feels really authentic.
You don't get a bunch of sound bites that you can print out and look at and say, wow, what a beautiful orator. This man, you know, could write a book, although Donald Trump has written a book. I think Joe Biden has a lot of the same thing. He's got a lot of heart. I think he's a more sensitive guy, probably.
Right.
A little more sensitive, although I guess I can't make that complete judgment. I don't know Donald Trump personally.
Well, we've seen Joe Biden cry. We haven't seen Donald Trump cry. So we can leave it
Not
at
yet.
that. We can at least make that judgment
Not
based
yet.
on what we've seen.
This was a really cool moment, though. I mean, I don't know how they pulled off this surprise. Was it a surprise to everybody? Did a few
Well, we
people
didn't know about it.
Did a few people know?
They kept it quite hush-hush. I mean, we just got the alert that President Obama would be paid tribute.
You know, I watched you guys all morning.
Well, we had everything going on. We've had hearings since 7 this
I
morning.
know.
I've been
I've been
streaming
there.
all week, like 7 a.m., 8 a.m.
Am I
because
the
there's
only
so much
person
going
in
on.
America right now binge watching the confirmation hearings
No,
besides
there's
you?
like thousands. Trust me. I think yesterday we were up to 10,000 people binge watching.
I'm thinking there's so many programs out there I really want to start watching, and I should be binge watching, but I'm binge watching the confirmation hearings. I don't know what that says about me. I really don't know. Anyway, it was a really special moment, and I think if you pull the politics out, because everything now is clouded through and looked at through a prism of politics, and people can't even look at that sometimes, a moment that's just a really special
Right.
moment, without bringing a bunch of political baggage in. But if we pull all that away, that was a pretty cool moment.
There he is reacting again. I was just replaying the clip. Like, watch
The
he
old
has no
hanky in the back
idea.
pocket.
Watch
As
this.
president, I am pleased to award our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of
He
Freedom.
just like did that really big
I'm going to give you a little history. This award, this honor, was established in 1963 by President John F. Kennedy, superseding the Medal of Freedom that was established by President Harry Truman back in 1945 to honor civilian service during World War II. So this is he's the most recent recipient of this award. This is a pretty rare honor to have bestowed upon you. And he did look stunned. I have to admit, the color of suit and everything he wore was just perfect for this award
Right.
today. I'm not looking away from you. I'm just watching in the monitor over here. He's pulling his emotions together here as he's about to get the award.
And everyone's watching. I mean, how do you
Presented.
compose yourself in that scenario? You really had just no idea. You could tell
What's he
that
thinking?
reaction
Yeah, what's he
was so authentic and genuine.
Truly
Because sometimes
was.
things that are presented as a surprise are just a surprise for the media and the
Right.
public. But you could just tell with the way he reacted that he really had no idea.
And I'm wondering what's going through his head here. He's like, is this really happening? Oh my gosh. And then, what am I going to say? He's always a little bit long-winded, Joe Biden.
Good old
because
Joe.
when you're telling a story from the heart and you're just kind of, I really felt like he just was there kind of forgetting the media was there, and he was just kind of thinking he was in a room amongst friends and loved ones, which he was. I loved the story he told about getting to know First Lady Michelle Obama better. That was a really special story. How he said, if her mother were 15 years older, I thought, where's he going with this? He said, she could have been my mother. We were raised exactly the same way, basically. Even though he's from Scranton, she's from the south side of Chicago. They had a similar, the way they were raised with the values that they were raised with were similar. That was a pretty cool story. And then the story about all the kids kind of moving all the beds out and sleeping on the floor. Did you hear that story towards the end?
I heard a little bit of it. I was trying to get this clipped and ready for our YouTube audience. It was nice to hear them both Obama and Biden, speak about their family's relationship with one
Yeah.
another and how they've grown to become as close as they are. Because prior to, Obama picking Joe Biden as his vice presidential nominee, they didn't have this relationship. This is a
Right.
relationship that's formed over the last 8-9 years, and we've been able to witness it.
Right. And it's become fodder on the internet, the bromance, as
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned. Some of the great pictures between the two of them. It's been kind of fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But today was pretty special. I thought it was cool.
So many Biden and Obama memes. I'm assuming most people on the internet are posting a Biden and
Right there.
Obama
There you have
meme.
it, the hug. Anyway, that was a cool moment. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I definitely recommend that you go back and look at it, because Sami's got it clipped now, so it's here forever. Right?
Yeah, I tweeted it. You guys can find it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fox10Phoenix. It's titled "So Emotional: Obama Surprises a Crying Joe Biden with Medal of Freedom."
And
I
it
feel
was
like that's a good
yeah.
title. That's what
That was
happened.
very cool. One of the sound bites that I kind of pulled, a quote, was he said, I have to read it because I don't want to screw this up. Talk while I look for this. Fill the airspace here for a second, Sami.
Sure. Well, I know that a lot of viewers out there that are commenting right now aren't the biggest fans of this presidential duo. A lot of them tuning in are Trump supporters.
Okay, I figured it out.
What's that?
He said, this honor is well beyond what I'm deserving of. But it was basically, to paraphrase him, but it shows the gratitude of the spirit of this man, meaning President Obama, that he would bestow this upon Vice President. And this was a real connection that they made as Vice President and President. A lot of times it's really, Vice President doesn't do all that much.
Right.
And from the way Joe Biden made it sound, is really that the president really did respect his opinion and asked his opinion on things, and he wanted to have complete honesty
A
from his vice
partnership
president.
almost.
Yeah,
You
from
know,
his vice president.
I really feel like there was a partnership, and you're right. Joe Biden, it seemed, played a larger role in this administration than perhaps other vice presidents did in the past.
He's got decades of experience, and I think what I really appreciated about the relationship that the president and vice president had was that earlier generation and older generation, it was respected. Mm-hmm. You know, you could have easily gotten in there and just had a bunch of baby boomers or Gen Xers, but he said, no, I want to reach out, I want to go a little bit further, and I'm going to respect the experience that Joe Biden brings to this office and take his advice. So there you have it.
Yeah, it was quite interesting to see. I'm thinking just of previous presidential, vice presidential dynamics in the past. I think of Bill Clinton, Al Gore. They don't really have.
I think that was more of
This.
a typical presidential vice presidential relationship.
Right.
It's kind of, you're like over in that office across town. I'm over here, and you're there in case something happens to me, type thing.
Right.
But this was a unique relationship, and I think you could say there was a unique relationship between Vice President Cheney and George W. Bush. I mean, Vice President Cheney had a lot of power that normally wasn't given to a vice
Right.
president. I would not go as far as to say that Joe Biden had that kind of power, but he definitely had a very close relationship, and you saw it play out in this award ceremony that we just
Right.
witnessed.
Right. Now, what do you think the relationship is going to be like long term between Trump and Pence?
I think there's a real respect there and a growing respect. Donald Trump, I think, maybe made a calculated decision to choose Mike Pence based on who he could draw in, his expertise, his conservative credentials. But I also believe that this is a relationship that is growing closer, and this is just my perception
Yeah.
of what I'm watching. And I'm sensing an appreciation that the two men have a growing fondness and appreciation for one another. Well, it's to remain
It's hard to
seen,
say right
yeah.
now.
But he's definitely using. I mean, he credited Mike Pence with helping make that carrier deal happen.
Well, it was in Indiana.
It was in Indiana, and I think there were probably some tax breaks given,
Right.
and using some of his power as governor of Indiana to be able to pull some of that power. You know,
Yeah.
that only a governor could have. So we'll see. This will be an interesting 4 or 8 years, depending on where it goes, and to see how this. I definitely think that the vice president is becoming a more important role. It's like why just have somebody who's there just in case? Bring that person in as a.
There's so much to do. Might as
Yeah.
well spread it out.
If we're going to pay them, we might as well use their expertise, right? All right. Well, this is a very cool clip. I might have to watch this again because
I might have to
I missed
replay
the
it for the
beginning
viewers.
part. I missed the beginning part.
I'm going to replay it for the viewers in the meantime.
It's great. All right, Samia, off to work.
All right,
More work.
thanks for hanging
See you
out.
later. Bye.
All right, guys, in case you missed it, Obama announcing that he's giving Joe Biden the Medal of
See
Freedom.
Joe's heart in the way he consoles families, dealing with cancer backstage after an event, when he meets kids fighting through a stutter of their own. He gives them his private phone number and keeps in touch with them long after. To know Joe Biden is to know that love without pretense, service without self-regard, and to live life fully. As one of his longtime colleagues in the Senate, who happened to be a Republican, once said, "If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, you've got a problem. He is as good a man as God ever created." So, Joe, for your faith in your fellow Americans, for your love of country, and for your lifetime of service that will endure through the generations, I'd like to ask the military aide to join us on stage. For the final time as president, I am pleased to award our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And for the first and only time in my presidency, I will bestow this medal with an additional level of veneration, an honor my 3 most recent successors reserved for only 3 others: Pope John Paul II, President Ronald Reagan, and General Colin Powell. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to award the Presidential Medal of Freedom with distinction to my brother, Joseph Robinette Biden, Jr. Will the aide please read the citation?
Vice President Joseph R. Biden, Jr. In a career of public service spanning nearly half a century, Vice President Joseph R. Biden, Jr. has left his mark on almost every part of our nation, fighting for a stronger middle class, a fairer judicial system, and a smarter foreign policy, providing unyielding support for our troops, combating crime and violence against women, leading our quest to cure cancer, and safeguarding the landmark American Recovery and Reinvestment Act from corruption. With his charm, candor, unabashed optimism, and deep and abiding patriotism, Joe Biden has garnered the respect and esteem of colleagues of both parties, and the friendship of people across the nation and around the world, while summoning the strength, faith, and grace to overcome great personal tragedy. This son of Scranton, Claymont, and Wilmington has become one of the most consequential vice presidents in American history, an accolade that nonetheless rests firmly behind his legacy as husband, father, and grandfather. A grateful nation thanks Vice President Joseph R. Biden,